maybe I'm like that bird, we have some bird thoughts, and I think that's kind of great, a humble way of just viewing the whole world because who does out of us, who knows what we're really doing, And I also do remember his ant colony of all things. Imagine that, right? He had an actual ant colony.
Really?
Yeah. He was probably the coolest younger brother you could have.
If you clicked on this video hoping to learn more about TempleOS, you've come to the right place. Hi, my name is Austin, and I've had this channel since 2022 where I've made TempleOS content and tutorials. And I know I haven't posted in a little while, but I've been really busy doing some research on OS and machine learning topics. And in fact, I just published the first ever book written on TempleOS called Learning TempleOS, An Introduction to Holy See Programming. Now, it's on sale right now, and you can get a hardcover on my website. And for the next week, we are doing a promotion where 50% of all the profits are going to go to the Brain and Behavioral Research Foundation. I was really thankful that the Davis family helped me out with this event. And in this interview, I spoke with Dan Davis, Terry Davis's own brother. So please check out the book in the description. Donate to the charity. And if you'd like to check out Dan's socials, he makes music and he has a YouTube and a TikTok. They're all in the description. All right, Dan, thank you for coming on my channel. So tell us, what's your position in the Davis family, and how does Terry fit in with the other siblings in terms of the birth order?
Well, there was eight of us when Terry was still with us, and I was the sixth in line, and he was seventh. We have one younger brother that was kind of a late little surprise. He was born 8 years after Terry, and so I was sixth and he was seventh, and we've got three older sisters, and I have three older sisters and two older brothers. He would have had three older brothers, of course, including
Right,
me.
so you guys are a big family.
Yeah, eight of us. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're all,
Yeah.
some of them are adults, right? And so when you were growing up, some of them had already moved out, or?
Actually, I have a brother 10 years older than me, and he's the oldest. So then there was three sisters. Um, so he had moved out, you know, by the time I was like 10, I guess. He
Hmm,
was 20. So yeah, you know, he was gone by the time Terry came up.
I see.
But,
Okay, so before we
and
get
then
into,
I'm sorry, then there was my three sisters. They're all just immediately following my oldest brother. So they were still around, but in the process of moving out.
right,
Winter,
yeah.
yeah.
I've seen a lot of, Terry posted a lot of family photos. I saw you guys would take a lot of family trips to different places and travel. Big,
Yeah,
big traveling family, right?
yeah, yeah, yep. And yeah, my dad liked to take a lot of photos as well. So yeah, we had lots of pictures. It was a good family. It was a good family to grow up in. A lot of really my both my father and my mother were both really educated, and I felt like everybody in the family was pretty pretty intelligent, I guess. It was kind of great. Very interested in science and mathematics. My dad was an engineer, and my mother was very smart. I think she graduated second in her high school, and you know,
Before we get into more about Terry, I wanted to learn a little bit more context about you, like what your education was like, what your career has been like.
well, I was kind of the underachiever, I think, in a way. I wanted to be a rock star. I played drums, and I took it real serious, and I went to college, just community college, just after high school, but I only stayed in the jazz band that I auditioned into and dropped all my other classes. I really didn't want to go to college right out of high school, but so anyway, I pursued music, and I had a pretty good run at it. Um, and but then I eventually ended up in Seattle, and the band that I had that we came the closest to actually getting a shot at being a professional musician. We unfortunately 9/11 happened just after like a week or 2 weeks after we had a showcase that the guy wanted to sign us. Uh, we were ready to be signed, and then 9/11 happened, and everything went on hold. And unfortunately, we lost our singer to suicide like 6 months later, and so that kind of ended that whole pursuit abruptly. I was about 36 and on the older side of trying to be a rock star, and that was my last shot really at it. But so anyway, that's how that all kind of came to an end. But I mean, I still play, and I actually went to school again um, at that point, and almost got a degree, AAAS degree in digital audio engineering. But I ended up starting a family. Had my daughter was born my last semester, and I didn't finish my one class was English 101. So I came within one class of actually getting a AAAS degree. So that's my education. And I still play drums. I have a home studio that I record, and I have been for 20 years, doing my own stuff. So then, so that's about it with my education. And I've been drywall. I've been doing drywall since 1987. I'm 59 years old, and been I kind of re-embraced drywall. I tried to get out of it once or twice, but so I do that here in Seattle. Got a little business of my own, so it does all right. But Terry actually worked with me for a couple summers when he was in school. I think that
Oh
was
wow.
about 88 and 89, I think. Yeah, just over the summers he worked on the crew with me. So I know he mentioned drywall a couple times on some of the videos I've watched. I've seen him in. But yeah, so anyway, that's
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm kind of in a similar boat where I was like one semester away from graduating. But hey, I mean, if this is like your YouTube debut, it's never too late to, do you post your music anywhere or?
I've posted a little bit. I also do some kind of artistic thing that I kind of came up with on my own with using video feedback, basically shining a camera back into the monitor, and you get that rolling kind of a feedback.
Yeah.
But I modified it quite a bit with the camera angles and using a mirror effect, so it comes up with a spiral, but it's also symmetrical because of the mirror effect, and so it actually looks kind of presentable, and it makes some pretty cool abstract art that's that's actually interactive because you can put objects in the stream, in between the camera and the monitor, and affect what's going on. You could put your like hand in there or whatever you want, and it's kind of interesting. But so I've posted a few of those with my own music, playing with that for a video
That
thing.
sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'd love
Yeah, I've
to
got
check that out.
yeah,
Um,
it's pretty
you
cool.
can
I mean,
send me
it's
a link or
different.
something after this and we can plug it in the
Oh yeah.
description. Yeah,
Oh,
we
all
can
right.
get
Well,
into
sure.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be
Um,
cool. I
so
don't do this is my first interview I think I've done in I don't know how long, like 20 years or something. Probably. I did I mean more than that probably. So yeah, a little nervous, but
hey,
whatever.
me too. I'm a little nervous too, It's
Yeah.
here I've heard a lot about you, just from the videos and things, and it's really interesting. It's kind of surreal meeting you for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of odd for me because I've looked at a lot of Terry's videos, but there's still ones that I haven't seen, and I'll see him, just talking casually and mention me and stuff, and it's like, wow, yeah, it's just kind of bizarre, just different. But yeah,
So
I miss Terry,
oh,
and
I'm
the more
sorry.
every time I'm watching those, I just miss him. He was
Yeah.
yeah, he was just a great person. There was and he was very supportive of me. I mean, he was always enthusiastic about whatever I was doing, whatever I was into. He was just 4 years younger than me, so he sort of looked up to me, and I felt that as a kind of responsibility. I felt it was a kind of a I tried to set a good example, and you know, but it was amazing. By the time he was in about eighth grade, I was a senior in high school, and he surpassed my math skills at about that point, and it was pretty incredible. He was quite gifted.
Even from
I
a
just
young age.
remember I couldn't keep up with him after when he was in about eighth grade. I was just like, wow, you're
Wow.
beyond me right now, already. So, but my dad, he did he went a little further in, on math than I did. I mean, I was good at basic, arithmetic and everything. I was really good at that, but I didn't really do the higher maths, the calculus and all that like my dad did. So they, Terry and my dad, they kind of had that relationship that
Is
took
it true
off.
your dad worked for NASA?
No, no, it wasn't NASA. He worked for astronautics and he did work on the Gemini program in the mid 60s, about the time I was born. Um, but it wasn't NASA per
Hmm.
se. But yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Was it
yeah,
Bechtel Corporation?
he did work for Bechtel, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think Terry
Yeah,
mentioned it once. Yeah.
he worked for few companies. Like I said, astronautics. He also worked for Alice Chalmers in Wisconsin, and then Washington Power Supply Systems in Washington State, and then he went to work for Bechtel. Um, yeah,
Hmm.
I think and then he ended up, I think, with Nevada Power. I think is where he ended up his last part of his career. So yeah, but he was literally a rocket scientist. Um, he worked on rocket engines when I was an infant. We were in Sacramento area, is where I was born. But yeah, my mother told me that she could hear them testing the rocket engines from home.
Really?
Some nights, yeah. And I was only that was just my first year because we moved when I was a year old to Wisconsin, and then that's when Terry was born. He was born in Milwaukee. So
Are any of your other siblings engineers as well?
no, no, there's not any
Yeah, just Terry.
engineers. Yeah, just Terry.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
really interesting. Um, so growing up, let's take a step back a little bit. Growing up with Terry, you said you played drums. You kind of inspired Terry a little bit with his drums. Is that correct? Were you two in a band together?
No, not together. We both did the school band thing, marching band and jazz. I was in jazz band. He didn't do the jazz band thing, but no, we weren't. I mean, we would jam a little together, but we both played drums, so we couldn't really have a band like that. But you
Yeah,
know,
downtown band.
yeah. Um, but no, he was. Yeah, he was actually he actually had a little band going for a while when he was in school. I remember that, and when he was getting his bachelor's degree. Well, he jammed with the guy named Tom. I remember him. He sent me a couple cassettes. I can't remember what the name that they had was, but yeah, it was pretty cool. He was just kind of trying to take after me a little bit in that regard. I was pretty serious about my music thing. I wanted to really make it, and gave it a pretty good shot. But yeah. Anyway, Terry did do the marching band thing. I remember he did that all through school.
He did
I,
marching band in high school.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you know if he did any other clubs?
If he did any what?
Any other clubs?
No, well, he was in the concert band, and I don't know for sure if he actually did the marching band. My other brother Sean did.
Hmm.
But yeah, I know he was in the concert band in high school.
What were some of his other favorite things growing up? Can you recall any like movies or books?
Um, I was thinking about that, and he actually he was fascinated with war, of all things, war,
War?
and yeah, uh-huh. He knew every war that ever happened in the history of man. I mean, pretty much.
Wow.
And he had army men. He had a bunch of army men, and he had I just remember that. And I also do remember his ant colony of all things. Imagine that, right? He had an actual ant colony.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, I remember that for a while. Yeah. What else? Uh, I know he got into Dungeons and Dragons for a little while. I wasn't a part of that, but I recall that. as far as music, it was all pretty much the stuff that I was into, which I kind of got handed down from my oldest brother and then my older sisters, which was, the classic 70s, Led Zeppelin and Deep Purple and, on through the 70s, And then I do remember one thing that was pretty great when Terry was, I think, in first grade, that young. He actually sang the song Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John in front of his school, like
Really?
his elementary school. Yeah. Which was just crazy cool. I thought it was great. He would, walk around the house singing that song, and then he ended up doing it in front of the school, like in first grade, I believe. So that was
Yeah, then he would
interesting.
go on and do all these singing in his videos and stuff.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
not shy about singing.
yeah. He not shy at all. Yeah, that's something that yeah. That I, on the other hand, was kind of. I'm definitely not as bold as Terry with that. But yeah.
So TempleOS, his creation was really inspired, he said, growing up playing the Commodore 64. Did you ever play Commodore with him or show any interest in that?
No, I barely even touched on computers my senior year in high school, and it was Commodore 64 that I was learning basic, language on. But it was the second semester of my senior year. It was the last class I had. I didn't need it to graduate, and I wasn't all that interested in it, but I did get a little taste of it. I don't even know if I passed the class, but and then I did some video game playing, as a, just out of high school, but not a whole lot. We had an Atari when I was still in high school, old school Atari with
Oh yeah.
Pong and yeah, and we had a handful of games. We used to play that. And then as far as Nintendo or anything, I had a Nintendo when I was probably 20, I think, or so, and just the Mario Brothers thing. And I remember playing that with Terry a little while. I learned some of the tricks, with the mushroom stuff and
Oh, the
some
one
of
up
those
trick.
yeah, yeah. And I remember showing Terry some of those, and so that's about as much as we did on video games, though.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, Terry ended
So,
up making a bunch of his own video games. I don't know if you've ever played any of them.
I've seen them. Yeah, I've seen them. And I have as far as Temple OS, uh, yeah, I've seen a lot on videos, but not actually had it ever downloaded on my own computer. So I haven't been able to do it just
Sure.
firsthand.
Well, if you're ever interested, we could definitely help you out. Get TempleOS set up. You could start playing some of his games. I
I,
think,
I actually would like to. I would like to do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
some of them are really fun. Um,
Yeah.
so actually, I did when I was reading Wikipedia, they have like a talk page where people, it's like a forum, people just write comments. And I had found one of these comments on Wikipedia and I couldn't verify it. So the admins actually ended up removing it, but I saved it because I found it really interesting and I was wondering if I could get your reaction about it.
Okay.
So here's the comment. It's from an anonymous commenter. It says, Terry was my friend in high school. We would talk computer programming tips at every opportunity, including illicit high school beer parties. He was a dangerous programmer as he solved problems not only with code, but also screwdrivers and soldering irons. We took our trigonometry lesson from school and wrote code algorithm to locate an object via a wavefront signal timing. Then he built it. He wired his Commodore paddle controls to voice coil sensors, soldered wires, and wrote the assembly with interrupts. Was able to show on screen where something was chucked in his backyard swimming pool. After we graduated, I kept in touch with him via talk on the VAX computer network. I shared my VAX with over 1,000 engineering students. He had one all to himself. That's when he went to work for Ticketmaster burning EPROMs. He was the smartest person I ever met and one of the nicest guys I knew. Never said any slurs or derogatory names to anyone while I was in his life. His parents were very religious and he thumbed his nose at it. Dad worked for Bechtel Corporation, nuclear power, and NASA. So we already debunked that NASA part, but does any of this, rest of this, like kind of, can you verify any of it? What's your reaction?
It sounds like something that he would be able to do and possibly did, but I don't know for a fact, you know. I wasn't there for that, but I wouldn't doubt it myself. I know that he basically designed a 3D printer of sorts on his own way back then. Um, you know, yeah, he like he had servo motors and like I don't even know what you call all the parts, but he basically made his own 3D printer. And I've heard, people talk about the CAD abilities using CAD on it, and I don't know. So I know he also was designing things for Ticketmaster, and he would have a team of half a dozen people that would build his ideas. They would make the prototypes of whatever he came up with. So it wouldn't surprise me if he had done something like you were just reading, you know.
Yeah, thanks for your comments on that. So, one last
Yeah.
question I wanted to ask about growing up with Terry was, you mentioned he was really interested in war. This guy wrote he's a bit of a dangerous programmer. Were there any difficult things about growing up with Terry, things that annoyed you?
Honestly, no, there wasn't. He was probably the coolest younger brother you could have. I mean, he was, he was very just peaceful, gentle kind of guy. He would never, he wasn't at all any, abrasive anything. Always very supportive of what I was doing. He was helpful. If I could share this little thing, when I was about 19 or 20 or so, I was living at home briefly. I'd moved out and then I came back for a little while, and I was in a band and we were writing our own material at that point, and I was trying to write lyrics for music, and I couldn't. I'm just horrible at writing lyrics, right? And so he had a solution. He came up with. That's where we both talked about it. He came up with this program to generate lyrics randomly. So he took a bunch of words. We picked a few songs that were he liked the lyrics to. A Deep Purple song. I could tell you the actual song was "Perfect Strangers." He took all the lyrics on that and broke it down into categories, verbs and nouns and adjectives and whatnot, and had this program that would spit out line after line of lyrics that were either sensical or nonsensical, but it was randomly generated according to the categories. We'd structure the sentence, but so we'd get sheet after sheet of just, combinations of these. Well, it wasn't just those words, we added more, but, kind of rock sounding words, the ones that would be appropriate in a rock song. And so I just thought that was a
Wow,
pretty
when was
great
this?
thing. Oh, this was of late 80s, like 80,
Wow,
88, 89 maybe. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
really interesting because that ended up going into
Yeah.
Temple OS.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I wished I would have had some of those pages of those, but I don't know where they ended up. But yeah, that was a pretty cool concept that he came up with. Well, I think we both did, but he put it into a program and created it. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, another thing that was pretty cool is he was actually writing a short story that I came across a copy of the first, I don't know, probably a dozen pages. Um, of a short story novel that he was writing, and it was a kind of near future kind of based thing, like maybe 50 years, in the future. And some of the ideas that he had, I thought that was pretty great. I don't think it's ever been published, but
It's just a manuscript you found the past few years.
yeah, I have it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know how I got it, but yeah, I came across it a year or two ago. Yeah, I shared it with my family and stuff, but it's kind of pretty cool. There's some great ideas in there. I don't know if we could ever figure out a way to share that with the public, but
Yeah,
I
whatever
would,
the family would like, we
yeah,
are all interested in his work and
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think it would be definitely a cool thing to figure out a way to share, you know.
Speaking of his work, let's get into TempleOS a little bit. So, have any of the family explored TempleOS so far?
Yeah, actually, a couple of my brothers, two of my brothers have my younger brother and my oldest brother, and well, actually all three of my brothers, they have. Um, and one of my sisters, she's also with her husband. They had it downloaded on their computer and messed around with it. Yeah, so they all have. Yeah, most of my siblings have. Yeah.
I imagine it's a little jarring for non-programmers in your family to load it up and have this command line and
Yeah, yeah. Well, my brother-in-law, he's an IT guy, and so I think that wasn't too hard for him to figure out. But yeah, my other siblings, I'm not sure how easy it was for them, or but you got to have a CD drive, don't you? Like or
yeah,
CD-ROM or whatever. So you have to
yep.
have an older machine to do it. Uh, yeah, I don't even know if it's compatible with Macintosh or not, but do you know if it is?
Um, it's compatible, well, uh, to install it like natively, like you would with a Macintosh or a Windows computer. I don't believe it is, but for emulation, like if you were to use a program to run it like VirtualBox. It works on the newer Mac computers, but it doesn't work on the older Mac computers. Ironically,
Oh,
it
really?
works on the newer ones and not
Huh.
the
With the
older ones.
M2, with the M chip, the
Yeah, the
new.
ARM chips. It doesn't work with Mac x86, I've noticed. Or
Hmm.
at least it's a little sh it might work with VirtualBox, but it's very finicky on Mac. But most of the time on Windows and Linux it can run fine.
Huh.
Um,
Well, see, I have a Mac. I have a
you have a Mac.
yeah, and I have the with the M1 chip.
Well, I
So
think I think we can get it working with VirtualBox, and there's some other ways that, I if you want to get some help later, I can help you get it working on
yeah,
your Mac.
yeah, I would like to try that out. Yeah, that would be
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Terry has a lot of writings in TempleOS, and he wrote a thing called The Purpose of Life. Have you ever read some of his writings in TempleOS?
Yes, I have. Yeah,
Yeah.
quite
So
in,
what are some of your
quite
thoughts on
interesting. I think.
just its
Um, I well, I think it's pretty great actually. I like quite a few of his concepts in there. That's a couple things that I might disagree with a little bit, which is kind of his. He talks about the uh, being proud of heart and how that relates to like immigration and your birthright, and it comes across a little bit. I understand the concept of what he's trying to say, but I don't know how to feel about it because I'm not racist at all. In fact, just on a side note, sorry if you don't mind, I wanted to comment about my feelings on his some of his outbursts, or some
Sure.
of his. Yeah, I obviously I don't condone that, at all. And I honestly wonder where it came from with him. Um, and I feel like it's kind of something that I want to make sure the record is straight on that. That it wasn't a family thing that it came from, because our family isn't like that whatsoever. Including myself, who I feel like would probably be the first, you know, biggest influence on Terry, and it didn't come from me. So I just wanted to kind of clear that for the record that I don't know where he picked that up, honestly. But it was kind of disturbing to me, So I definitely do not condone that. But then on the whole the concept of like immigration, I know he mentioned in the purpose of life, he mentioned an example of being proud of heart would be giving away your birthright because you are too. I guess it would be to put it in political terms, if you get too liberal, I guess. Um, so anyway, that's
I think he wrote about like loving neighbor before God.
like yeah, exactly. And like say you when he says proud of heart, his examples are like saying, no, you first, like to go through a door or something,
Yeah,
like if you're insisting on the other person, getting to go first, like being too polite, I guess, in a way, would not be a good thing, uh, in his concept. So that I find to be a little bit different than the way I feel all the time. I mean, I agree with him when it comes to like driving on the road. Like if you come to a four-way stop, we have a lot of those in Seattle, and people are too polite and they're like, okay, you go first, and I'm like, okay, I'll go first, fine. I don't like sitting there trying to decide, so I'm with him on that when it comes to driving. But when it comes to like immigration, I don't really subscribe to like I was born here, so I deserve to be here. You don't, you know, as a birthright. You know, I don't know. I think we all need to share kind of all the world in a
sure.
way. So I'm a bleeding heart liberal, I guess. So I don't know. He doesn't subscribe to that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people in this community are able to separate things out and realize that Terry, at the end of the day, he was a human being, and not
Yeah,
all of his opinions were going to be, you know, super acceptable. And we'd also can look at some of his works and, say, okay, well, we like these parts and we don't like these parts, and
sure.
everyone can think
Yeah,
for
that's fair.
themselves at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I hope
Um,
so. Yeah. Well,
I,
yeah,
I will
and
just say,
go
sorry.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'll just say that I know that a lot of these programmer spaces, there's a lot of people they don't do a lot of communication outside, and there's a lot of like fake news and anger online. And so when you're someone with a mental illness, I think it's a lot easier to become susceptible to that kind of information that's in these communities online. Not to say that he wasn't able to think for himself, and I don't agree with a lot of those things that he said, but I think that I'll get into this into the next point, in the next question, but um, yeah, I think we can use our discernment and best judgment. But were you going to say one more thing on that?
Oh, sure. I was gonna say some more stuff, but I'm trying to remember what it was. Yeah, on the purpose of life, that question. Yeah, I do like a lot of his ideas in there, though. Just the idea of communicating, with the relationship with God that he talks about in there, how you're supposed to entertain him, and the casualness. I like that idea that it's just like almost like in a relationship with another human or something in a way. You do stuff to just have a friendship or whatever. I think that's a pretty cool attitude, um, as opposed to the real strict and formal way that like we were brought up to have a relationship with God. As Catholic. Um, and I'm not a practicing Catholic. I'm not very into organized religion, I guess. I know it's pretty cliche, but I feel like I'm spiritual, but not religious. If that, I know it's a cliche, but nevertheless, that's kind of how I feel. But I do like Terry's attitude as far as just talking to God. He doesn't hold back with swearing. It's not like that's going to be some big sin that's going to get him, in trouble with God or something. And I also like his a couple of his additional commandments, like the 11th commandment. I think was just genius. Thou shalt
Don't
not
litter, right?
litter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a
Um,
great idea right there. And maybe the 14th one, I think it was about, thou shalt not be pedophile or whatever. I think, it's like that's great, brilliant. So I like some of those ideas, um, and some of the things that he is, you know, um, you know, I actually did talk with Terry when he was working on this whole operating system. I was in Vegas a couple times, but it was kind of difficult to talk to him, face to face, when he was telling me about his conversations with God. It was a little bit hard to just. I mean, I would not try and argue with him, but going along with what he was saying, it was not the easiest conversation to have. But I do like some of the things that some of the results that he has gotten from God in his conversations, like knowing what God's favorite animal is and stuff like that. I think that's kind of great. Um, anyway, and the way that he gets the messages, I thought was kind of interesting as well because it makes a lot of sense in a way. There's a logic behind it. If you subscribe to the idea that everything happens for a reason, then the whole concept makes total logical sense. I mean, so if you pick a random number, it's happening for a reason, or if you just pick a page in a book and blindly, pick it, then if it's happening for a reason, then it's meant to be, and that would be a message from the universe or God or however you want to interpret that. But if everything happens for a reason, then that all makes sense. His whole concept works. So I thought that was pretty genius and interesting. I think
Yeah,
it's
I agree. I think, and a lot of people share that assessment of yours is Terry's writings have reached out a lot of these really logical kind of programmer types and brought them back into a Christian mindset, which is really remarkable, I think.
it is really remarkable. I mean, and it's valid. Like I said, if you start off with the premise that everything happens for a reason, then it all works. So that's pretty big. You know. So yeah, that's just
Do you have a favorite nugget of
something.
wisdom from Terry?
Um, I don't know. One of my favorite quotes is the bird one. I just maybe we're like that bird looking at the monitor. I don't know if that's a nugget of wisdom, but it's one of my favorites. The bird just looking at that monitor and not being able to understand it and just not panicking, just going about it because he doesn't have any choice. Maybe I'm like that bird, we have some bird thoughts, and I think that's kind of great, a humble way of just viewing the whole world because who does out of us, who knows what we're really doing. Uh, so I like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really humble. It's refreshing because sometimes he could get a little arrogant and proud in his videos, you know. He called himself the
Yeah.
best programmer in the world, which
Yes.
there he might have been.
Yeah, he was a little narcissistic, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a little hard to take sometimes, but it's also kind of I don't know, refreshing in a way. It's weird. I hate to bring up any politics, but it's kind of Trumpish in a way, in some
Yeah.
ways. Um, and I don't know. I'm not a Trumper necessarily, but yeah, in fact, I'm quite not. But anyway, yeah, the narcissistic aspect of it is I don't know. I sometimes laugh at Trump about that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think it's almost comical when he says nobody knows this better than I do, or nobody knows this better than I do. He says it on every subject, right? And so if you don't laugh at that, you can't obviously believe that. So anyway, with Terry, I kind of take it with a grain of salt too. He was brilliant, I believe, but to say you're the best at anything is pretty, you know, sort of a stretch, I think.
I think a
But
lot of people see those clips and then they just kind of think Terry's a joke or they don't understand it completely. Would you say anything to those people?
yeah, I'll say that I do appreciate the people that can see through that and can see through the affliction that he suffered from, and can see the person because he was really a great person. He wasn't he wasn't at all like like he comes off on some of those videos, you know. So I don't know what I would say to him, but I do know that I have the way I feel about the trolls and the people that aren't really there for a positive thing, just for entertainment and stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with being entertained by some things like that, but if you actually interact and you're active in trying to change, have them do things, I think that's really sad for the people. If you're like doing cruel things, just being cruel in general, I feel sorry for those people. If you're that cruel, there's no way you're happy in life. If you could do something cruel to somebody else that you know is suffering or whatever. I mean, it's just I pity those people. Like some of the pranks and stuff that were, like the thing with Diana,
All the Diana trolls and yeah.
yeah, that was just that's cruel. It's just cruel as can be, and I know those people that were involved in that, they just can't be happy. So it's too bad for them. But anyway, so that's how I feel about trolls, and yeah.
Kind of to wrap
So,
this up, what kind of lessons do you think people can learn from Terry's life?
um, well, one thing I just think is just being able to be to put yourself out there and be brave enough to do that. I think that's something that I'm trying to get from take from Terry. Maybe not as open as he was, but just being able to be yourself and have that confidence. I think I don't know. Some of the things that he believed in, I think, are good lessons. Just like I said, the 11th commandment. Littering and just some of those basic things that might seem obvious, but I don't really know. But I just hope that people can see him for who he was, aside from the disease that he had. You know, because he was really an amazing person, just a gentle human being. He never was. Like I said, he was never really mean to anybody that I knew of until. He was sick.
Right.
Um, anyway, yeah, he was. I don't know. It was tough to watch. Him go through that. It's as a somebody who's loved him as a brother. It was tough for anybody that knew him. To see and not be able to help, not know how to help. You know. So it's too bad. There's many people in the world, right now that are in that position, and just being sympathetic to them is really, really important, not to just take it as a joke, mental illness, and it's pretty common, it's a lot more common than most people really are aware. So anyway, it's something you should. I wish that I would have been able to do more myself personally, for Terry, but I just didn't know how. I mean, I lost the singer in my band also he lost him to suicide, and I just wish I could have helped on that as well. Um, I think as a country, we need to just devote a little more resources to mental health issues. Um, so if anybody can donate or do anything towards that, I think is a really important thing for us, just as a society. So if that's something that people get out of Terry's life and whatever, that would be great. Something positive to come from it all. More research and help towards mental health.
That's very poignant and important. And I'm going to have more details at the end of this video about how our viewers can donate to mental health causes. I just want to say, I've seen a lot of Terry's videos. I don't know if I've seen them all yet, but I've seen, probably dozens of hours at this point, while I was studying his operating system and writing the book. And I gotta say, from the clips that I've seen, yeah, he really loved you, and I don't think you should feel bad at all. I've dealt with mental illness, like you said. Lots of people in this country have dealt with mental illness. It's not an easy thing. I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone in the family did the best they can, and I want to thank you, Dan, for coming on my show and talking about it. It takes a lot of strength, and we'll see if we can maybe plug some of your music too, because we'd love to check some of that out.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. Yeah. I appreciate it. All you're
All right.
doing, I appreciate all that.
Thank you for watching the interview, and remember you can check out Dan's socials in the description, and remember to pick up a copy of Learning TempleOS so that we can really get the TempleOS Foundation some funding as well as help out a great charity. Thank you.